In this video, I'm going to show you the first step in this process. We're going to loosely sketch out our character in different poses. We're going to start with our main pose, which will be a 3/4 view, followed by a front view, a side view, then the back of a 3/4 view, and the character from behind. Now let's begin drawing our character. We're going to first start with the 3/4 view. Let's use this view to basically decide what our character is going to look like, what her proportions are going to be, etc. Once we've finalized this look, then we can work on the rest of the poses. Let's start by drawing in the head, and then the torso, the legs, the arms, etc. I also want to move her body back a bit so that it's in line with her head. I'm also going to lower her ears a little, and I'm also going to give her those big eyes that look really good on television. One of the easiest and quickest ways to do this is to press L on your keyboard, which basically selects the lasso tool, and then kind of draw around the shape that you want to adjust. And then you can just move it around with the arrow. It's a very easy and simple way, and a very quick way to get changes done. Now I also want to make her hands a little shorter, and we're going to move her chest up a little as well. I'm also going to move her waist up higher and also pinch it a little more. And now I'm going to add in the detail to her legs, and I want to make them kind of nice and round and shapely so that they're proportional to the rest of her body. I want to kind of extend out her legs so that they look a little powerful, and they give a nice balance to the overall character. And notice while I'm drawing, I kind of keep reworking the legs or the torso. It's because the idea is to keep going and making sure that the shape feels right, and not to worry about having a good drawing. And now let's give her some menacing, dynamic looking eyes. You know, we must remember that she is an evil villain, so we have to make her look as scary as possible. And of course, don't forget the eye patch since she's a pirate. And let's not forget to give our pirate her very cool space helmet. And since we've added on the helmet, we won't really need the ear anymore. And let's just kind of add that little window on the helmet that she'll be looking out of, because I guess the rest of her will now be hidden. And add the window on a new layer so that, you know, in case you want to kind of move it around to see what angle works best and what parts of her face would be hidden, what shouldn't be hidden. And since I've been working in layers and I'm not happy with the shape of this particular window that I've created on her helmet, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and Warp tool. And this is so nifty in kind of helping me get a better shape that I'm looking for my character, you know, and it's a very quick way to kind of achieve the desired effect that you're looking for. Now I'm going to keep her helmet very simple and uncomplicated. I don't want to add too much detail because, again, this is for television, so we want to keep it as simple as possible. I also want to give her a nice big ponytail. This is also to basically identify my character as a female, but I think it also adds a little something interesting to the shape as well. Now I'm still not very happy with her legs. I want to give her like a more dynamic pose, so I'm going to rework them again. In the previous pose, I kind of just had her legs together, and it didn't really look as exciting. So now I'm going to have them slightly apart. And also let's add a few wires kind of connecting her spacesuit to her space helmet. This will kind of make the shape interesting on a whole. And now let's give our space pirate a cool ray gun. I'm not really sure of what I want the gun to look like. I definitely want it to have a cool futuristic feel, and I'm just going to use very simple shapes and lines to define it. Nothing too complicated again. I drew the ray gun separately on a different layer so that I could just focus on the shape and the details for now. Then I'm going to kind of attach it back to the character and adjust the shape and size. And now I kind of want to just add in the final detail, like giving her some gloves and some boots. Now that our character is fleshed out, let's move over to the next step. Lower the opacity of your character. Make sure that all the layers are merged. You can do this by going to Edit, Merge Layer Down. And on a separate layer, let's start creating these blue horizontal lines along our character. What we're essentially doing here is almost creating these guidelines along the major points of the character. We're going to add one on the top of the helmet, at the bottom of the helmet, along her torso waistline, by her knees, also along the bottom of her feet. Now that we have our guidelines laid down, let's begin with the second pose. I'm going to start out by drawing the helmet first. We've completed the 3/4 view, and now we're going to work on a front view. Notice how I'm kind of drawing lines across my character. I just want to make sure that I'm putting everything where it needs to be. You can draw a straight line with your brush by holding down the Shift button on your keyboard and then kind of drawing the brush across your canvas. This can also work horizontally, vertically, as well as diagonally. Now I've duplicated the eye and added it to the right side, but we don't really need this since our character is wearing an eye patch, but this is just for my own kind of knowledge of where the placement will be. Now I also want to kind of duplicate the face. I'm going to do this by actually taking the layer that the face is drawn on and kind of carrying it and clicking it down onto this new layer icon. Then I'm going to go to Edit and Flip Horizontal, and then I'm going to kind of basically get an exact mirror image on the other side. Now again, we're going to use the warp tool. Remember, just have to go to Edit, Transform, and Warp. And I'm going to use this again to kind of restructure my helmet. I use the warp tool often, even for the smallest of things. It really helps speed things up sometimes. Again, notice how I'm working very rough at this stage, keeping my drawing very loose. I'm kind of just focusing on the shape language at this moment. And now I'm going to draw in some nice symmetrical legs. I want to keep them as dynamic as I did in the first pose, kind of more wide apart than stuck together. And just like when I drew the first pose, there's going to be a lot of redrawing during this process as well. And don't forget to draw her hands and her gloves. I'm going to keep referring to my 3/4 drawing to make sure that the hand and the ray gun and everything is in position. I want to make sure that her knees are in the right place. Again, I'm drawing very fast. I always hold down Shift on the keyboard and kind of draw a straight line across from one drawing to the other, just to keep making sure that the measurements are working right and everything feels proportional. And now I'm just going to add in the final details like her gloves and her shoes. Now that we've finished with the front view, let's move on to our next pose. First, let's extend our document more to the right. You can do this by clicking C on your keyboard, which stands for crop, and kind of extending out the marquee selection that is around there and kind of moving it toward the right. And then you can just kind of expand your gray background so that it goes there as well. You can do this by clicking on Command T or Control T on your keyboard to kind of adjust the transforms for that. These are really quick and easy Photoshop shortcuts to kind of speed up your process. Now I'm also going to use Command T to extend out the blue lines as well, so that we can start drawing our next pose. Be sure to always work in a different layer each time. Now let's begin drawing the side view of our space pirate. Make sure to always check with your previous pose to make sure that everything is where it needs to be, that the eyes are in the right place, the nose is in the right place, everything. And again, I'm using the same process as I did with holding down the Shift key and drawing those straight lines back and forth to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And now I'm adding in the simple details that define the helmet, just kind of figuring out what this would look like from the side view. And now let's give our character her cool signature ponytail. I'm going to use the same shape for her hair as I used in the 3/4 view. And now I'm going to create the side profile for her torso. And just like before, use the same process as trying to figure out the exact proportions. Start adding in little details like the gloves, what the backpack would look like, etc. Now let's draw in her ray gun and, try and figure out what it would look like from the side. Remember to use the lasso tool when you want to kind of move around layers and shapes. Now I want to add some cool pipes to the costume. It just makes the character a little more interesting and makes it look more that she belongs in space. Now let's try and figure out what her legs would look like from the side. And now let's begin drawing a 3/4 view of our character, but from the back. We're going to kind of start drawing out the helmet first, and then adding in her hair since it plays such a big part of her head. And now let's give more attention to her backpack and the back of her ray gun. When doing the back pose, try and remember how her legs were standing when you drew her from the front. Use a similar pose for the back. And now remember to draw in the window for her helmet and a side profile for her head. And now let's extend out our canvas again, just as we did before. And now let's do our back pose just as we did the front. You can do this by essentially duplicating that layer and erasing out the inside. And now you have the basic silhouette for the back of her body. And remember, you can duplicate a layer by dragging and dropping that layer onto the new layer icon at the bottom of the layers window. And we want to make sure that the back of our silhouette is a mirror of the front. So remember to go to Edit and flip the image so that the ray gun was going to be on the right now when you draw her. Remember to erase out her chest and draw in her backpack, and also to draw in what the back of her hair would look like as well. When drawing in the hair, you might end up hiding a lot of the detail from the backpack, but that's perfectly fine. We just want to make sure that the basic outline of all her little gadgets are still seen from the back. Now her hair is quite full in volume, so I really want to remember to incorporate that when I'm drawing the back of her hair. And I've also used the same shape as I did for the 3/4 view, for the side view, and the back view. I kind of like this consistent shape of her hair to be throughout each pose. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense, it does look pretty cool, so I'm gonna keep it. And now that we're done kind of working on all the rough poses, let's begin with the cleanup process. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to take these character turnarounds and clean them up using the pen tool as well as the brush tool.